Welcome coaches, teams, and fans. Thanks for being here for This Is Our Robot. I'm Coach John Burnett, and in this episode today, we're going to be walking you through how we host events. Everything from the preparation to the planning to the volunteers to everything in every single role. So we are here at the Michigan State Championship in 2021 in Battle Creek for First Tech Challenge. And today we want to walk you through how we host events, because this is how we robot.
Let's start off this video remembering that FIRST is a nonprofit, volunteer-based organization. These fantastic, inspirational events are brought to you by incredible people giving up their free time. This goes from line queuers to referees to FDAs and even the event organizers themselves. There is a tremendous amount of work and time required to put on such a show, so let me make clear my reasons for hosting year in and year out. Everyone has their own reasons for hosting events, but for me, the concept was simple. I wanted to lower the resources required to compete, as well as encourage growth in our area. Getting other schools to join up is a tough sell when the closest competition is an hour or more away from their home site. This also applied to hosting lower level events. Why should my elementary teams have to travel an hour or more to showcase their amazing work? Now we can use the hosted event not only as a way to easily showcase our family of teams, but also as a great way to involve our high school team members in helping others. More on that as we go through this video. Finally, I found myself in a position to help. Working at a high school with 2 sizable gyms allowed for a great setup of an FRC event. The common philosophy being, build a longer table, not a higher fence. I know not everyone is so fortunate to be in a position to host, and therefore we do whatever we can, whenever we can. I am confident anyone watching this video will do the same, whether that means hosting an FLL Explore Exposition, or an FLL Challenge, FTC, or FRC competition. Now let's get after how to go about starting an event. First, events need to be run officially through headquarters, but that does not mean you need to directly contact them to run your event. Instead, reach out to your local regional director. For some, like those of us here in Michigan, this is organized at the state level. All First and Michigan District events are organized and supported through the same central group of people. Be sure to consider which level of FIRST you would like to host. FLL Explore requires the least amount of resources on site and overall time. This event can be done over the course of a single day, including setup, run of show, and teardown. FLL Challenge and FTC require at least a high school gymnasium space for competition and pit space for each team, along with classroom spaces for judging. FRC requires 2 high school gymnasium spaces, but only 2 or 3 classroom spaces for judges in their work. Is there a need in your area? How close is the nearest competition at that level? How many teams would draw to your site? These questions need to be considered to state your case for bringing an event to your area. Keep in mind, this should also be considered a case for growth. Even if you will only draw half a dozen teams to your event this year, how many teams could be drawn over the next 2 to 3 years? Some schools opt to have multiple teams run out of the same elementary, middle, or even high school. Okay, so you know your area, your resources, and the need for an event, and you decided to move forward. Now is the time for filling the 2 most important non-technical roles, the event coordinator and the volunteer coordinator, known as the EC and the VC. You are likely your own EC. The VC should be someone you can trust, has good communication skills, and generally you like working with them. Please note that from here on out, I will speak from the experience of running an FRC event, but know that these ideas are applicable to each level of competition. The EC handles all run-of-show operations. This includes securing the site facilities, all rental companies for pipe and drape and tables, and making sure the electricity is sufficient. The EC designs the layout of the pits, competition arena, eating spaces, and parking. ECs are also responsible for communications with teams about these same items and ultimately makes the calls about the run of the show. If this person is doing their job correctly, you won't know they're doing their job at all. The VC handles all of the, you guessed it, the volunteer operations. This includes the communication with teams to recruit volunteers, including judges, and organizing volunteers on the day of the event. Their number one role is to make sure that all volunteers know their expectations for making this a great event. Then keep the volunteers happy, which often means making sure the food is served on time and everyone eats. You would be surprised how many FTAs forget to eat over a lunch period. Once you have your EC and VC figured out, be sure to contact the venue you believe would suit your needs best. Often, this is a local arena or public school with gymnasiums. Be sure to give yourselves enough time to make this a great event. Contacting the regional director and the venue should be done about a year in advance. Begin to list out any and all impacted parties. Think about everyone who would otherwise be trying to go about their day who now needs to change their plans because you are hosting an event at your venue. For example, when we hosted the Michigan State Championship for First Tech Challenge at Kellogg Arena in Battle Creek, we worked with the Battle Creek Police Department to make sure officers were directing traffic during the times of team loading. Streets needed to be closed to properly direct traffic. Certainly a lesson learned from our first year, where many teams and Battle Creek residents were having trouble getting through their day. Whenever we host the FRC district event at Lakeview High School here in Battle Creek, we are sure to work with the physical education teachers whose classrooms are being used on the days of the event. We are displacing them, which no teacher ever wants. There's nothing we can do about not displacing them, but communication is always helpful. So contact the principal, director of operations, all of the physical education teachers, and the athletic director to be sure no teams who are expecting to practice are caught off guard by a gymnasium full of awesome robots. Now you have your EC, VC, and the venue on board. Next is time to secure the sponsors. Even though the people at the event are all volunteers, there are many vendors who are not working on a pro bono basis. Our FRC district event usually costs around $15,000 to run annually, and the other levels of first cost much less, but you will still need someone to pay for everything. Keep in mind that the number I quoted does not count for the rental of the field, so be sure to get that information from First Headquarters or your regional director. Much like your program, events offer the same opportunities to feature company logos and advertisement of services to future STEM leaders. As you look for sponsors for your event, refer back to our sponsorship video and just replace team with event. In Michigan, we like to offer our top sponsors title recognition. Logos can be featured on banners, slideshows during the event, their names called out during the opening, closing ceremonies, field naming, and even the program booklets for the event. While this part is certainly not the focus of running such an event, surely none of this incredible work can be possible without the secured financial backing of event sponsors. Lastly, be sure to set benchmarks for yourself. I will go over some here with a brief timeline, but set goals for yourself to be sure as few items fall through the cracks as possible. If you are not sure about such a list of items to be addressed, I'm sure this video and your regional director can help develop the checklist. Now let's go beyond you and your VC to what other roles are necessary at each event. Starting with FLL Explore, you will need to recruit a handful, usually 3 to 5, judges. These can be STEM professionals in your area or other adults in the area who are eager to hear the great stories of elementary robotic students. Whenever we run this event, our high school students serve as leaders of various interactive stations for the youngest members of FIRST to learn from. We have engineering challenge stations with gumdrops and toothpicks to make towers, and interactive robot demonstrations with our FTC or FRC robots. At the FLL challenge level, you now need some referees and a head referee. You will also want an MC to announce for the event and a game announcer to give the play-by-play for the audience. Finally, a small number of field reset and robot inspector crew to keep everything running and the robots playing fair. With FTC, we include everything from below, but now add in a field technical advisor, or FTA, who needs to be trained by FIRST itself. Other officially trained personnel include a judge advisor who will train your judges on the day of the event. And additionally, you will now need a lead robot inspector, pit administrator to help run the pits, a lead queuer, and queuers themselves. At this level, teams are running on a common match schedule with partners relying on them. These kind cuers will go around to make sure any team who is needed for an upcoming match is ready and knows where to be. Being a competition, it is well within the power and responsibility of the head referee to disqualify a team who does not show up to their match on time. Being there will be fields built to specifications in the first game manuals, there needs to be a field manager. This person is the keeper of the field dimensions. With every game element and piece defined within tolerances, it is up to the field manager to right any wrongs on the field where there is disrepair. Finally, a non-first but still technical role is a lead on the audio-visual equipment. Opening ceremonies, live match play scoring, and more needs to be managed by the AV lead. This role is just as significant for the participants as it is for the audience. Being a sport, this is also a show for the audience members who want to be able to see the action, understand the current point values of each alliance, and hear the play-by-play commentary. As we work up to FRC, the roles are the same, but due to the size of the field or number of competitors, the number of volunteers increases. For example, with FTC, you may have 1 or 2 field reset personnel to handle the event, but with FRC, you usually need 5 or 6. The pits can be managed by 1 or 2 people in FTC, but you will need 3 or 4 in FRC due to the larger amount of asks which happen over the course of the competition. Keep in mind that I am not listing out every single role needed here, but this should give you a good idea of the expectations and necessary amount of people power to ensure your competitors and audience have a great experience at your event. You want to be sure these teams come back year after year to your site. I take great pride in making sure every year we run a more successful event than the year prior. Now let's lay out a timeline of events simultaneously for you as the EC and your VC. We will put these notes down at the bottom of the screen for your convenience. Keep in mind these timelines are for a repeat event, so if you are doing this for the first time, add in an extra month or week just to be safe. First benchmark is about 6 months out from your event. ECs at this point should contact every person involved in putting on this event. For me, this means the building principal, director of facilities, district superintendent, athletic director, lead of custodial services, food services, and all impacted physical education teachers. As a general note, be sure to keep all communications succinct, and I like to bold individuals' names in a group email to be sure they know precisely what I'm asking. Long-winded emails will get ignored, and the important details will get lost in the dialogue. VCs at this point should refresh or create their organizational chart. This lists all roles with needs. For your convenience, we are linking a sample spreadsheet in the description below. This is for FRC events, but can be adapted for the other FIRST programs. 4 months out, as an EC, you need to have your sponsors secure. As we mentioned earlier, these events have large total costs. Sponsors are also great resources for volunteers, especially judges. If you are having difficulty finding potential sponsors, be sure to contact your regional director for assistance. Also, at this point, be sure to secure your vendors. This includes the catering service for the volunteers, pipe and drape for the event, audio-visual equipment, and custodial services. If not included with your venue, be sure to get both security on site as well as medical personnel. Note that often the first responders can come from team parents or volunteers. Also, be sure to secure your order for medals and trophies. First has a specific vendor for all banners, medals, and trophies, so be sure to work with your regional director or First headquarters to get the right materials. VCs at 4 months out should secure the key volunteers. This includes the FTA, the judge advisor, lead robot inspector, and head referee. Some regions will offer to cover hotel costs for these volunteers, so be sure to secure lodging for them at this time as well. At 2 months out, ECs should now have a list of teams who are attending their event. Be sure to send your initial email to all teams with their primary and secondary contacts. When you do, always use the blind carbon copy function on your email for privacy reasons. This initial email should include everything the coach absolutely needs to know for the event. This means an agenda, physical address, parking and load-in information, how to pre-order food, and any special rules or expectations for being at your event. I like to include this initial email inside any follow-ups so coaches do not need to then go back and try to remember what email had what information. VCs should now be checking and then following up for any roles which require training or certifications. Be sure all referees, inspectors, and judges are completing their training through FIRST. This is all done through the FIRST Volunteer Management System, or VMS. If you do not have login information for this, be sure to contact your regional director or FIRST headquarters on the matter. Also be sure to secure your order of t-shirts for your event through the vendor associated with your region. You will never know the exact sizes of every volunteer for your event, as many will register too late for you to then respond with an order. To help with this, we are including in the organizational chart a sample list of sizes and numbers from our FRC event. Feel free to tweak this for your event. With 1 month remaining, the EC should directly contact any and all rookie teams attending their event. We want all teams ready to compete, and if rookies are in need of resources, be sure to connect them with some more experienced teams also attending your event. The sooner you discover the needs, the more likely the team will be ready to come inspection time. VCs are now looking to fill final roles. Keep in mind that FIRST has age restrictions on some roles, depending upon the program level. For example, in FRC, referees need to be at least 19 years old. Other roles like field reset or queuer can be done by school-age students. At this time, there should not be any major gaps in the organizational chart for volunteers. Also be sure to secure what teams will be helping set up and then tear down the event. At 2 weeks out from the event, the EC should have trophies, banners, and medals in hand. Be sure to count these so any errors can be fixed by your event. Do the same for the t-shirts, which were ordered by your VC. Follow up with every vendor which you secured earlier to be sure everyone is aware of times and expectations. Separately, plan ahead for the tear down and clean up. While the field and game pieces will be moving on to the next regional or district event, carpet is often a one-time use. What are you going to do with the carpet? I like to open up the opportunity to all competing teams on a first-come, first-served basis to take home the carpet. If the team is willing to stay and tear down the field at the end of the event, then they get to take home the official first carpet for their home site. VCs should be emailing all the volunteers to lay out expectations for report times. Note that not everyone needs to be on site at the same time. For example, robot inspectors need to be on site on Wednesday of a regional or Thursday of a Michigan district event, but judges do not need to be on site until the next day. With only 1 week remaining, be sure to send one final round of communications to all teams and volunteers giving the straight facts of the event. Times, places, expectations for teams and volunteers. VCs should print out name tags for all volunteers, which include their name and role. Not only a nice gesture for volunteers, this will come in handy later. ECs should now be printing off final versions of scripts for their opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies and the alliance selection. Contact your regional director or FIRST headquarters for a template. And now, it's time for the show. Keep in mind I am speaking here about FRC district events in Michigan. Adjust days and times accordingly for regionals or other FIRST programs. Wednesday evening. This is when we first lay out all floor protection, such as tarp across all gymnasium flooring and masonite between any robot actions such as the arena and practice field. Then the carpet is rolled out, field assembled, pits outlined with pipe and drape. This is all coordinated by the EC and the team setting up the event. For us, this is often just our home program, but keep in mind that is about 30 people, and this takes us around 7 hours or more to do. We will often start at 3 p.m. and usually end around 10:30 p.m. At that point, all hardware should be set up, including all tables, audiovisual equipment, pipe and drape. All that should remain is for some wiring to be done by the FTA and field supervisor. Thursday evening, teams will roll in around 5 p.m. to set up their pits. VCs need to be sure robot inspectors and the pit supervisor are in position. The EC is now handling all the small incidents which pop up. Someone's pit will be missing power. A few tables will need to be moved from one area to another. Be sure to follow up with the team registration people to be sure all necessary paperwork is completed for teams to be on site. This is mostly online, but a physical roster still needs to be submitted by each team. While this is not my favorite part as an EC, the legal aspect is that these teams and participants are on site at a first event and therefore need to waive first's liability should they get hurt at this event. Friday morning. This is the big moment for you and your VC. Although the opening ceremonies may not be until 10:30 a.m., you will want every volunteer on site at 7:30 a.m. at the latest to be sure they are in position and get any necessary training. This is especially true for the judges and the judge advisor. What this means is that there will be a big rush of volunteers between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. Remember those name tags with the names and roles printed out? Well, this is a great way now to quickly figure out who is not on site. VCs can then call the missing volunteers to find out their game plan for coming to the event. As the EC, the first thing to do on Friday morning is to contact any and all teams who are not yet at the event. Often these are rookie teams who were not contacted earlier or local teams who decided they would practice at their home site on Thursday instead of coming out to the event. The FTA will not run a match schedule until the EC makes the list of teams final. Once that list is finalized and the FTA is busy running the match schedule, the EC should be working with the MC and the game announcers to coordinate the opening ceremonies. Any invited VIPs should be arranged to ensure they know their speaking order and where to stand. And honestly, once the opening ceremonies are done, the show will run. As the EC, your role is now to respond alongside the VC to any fires which may pop up. These are often minor medical incidents which need some first aid and then the corresponding paperwork, or the field staff needs more drinks and snacks. Saturday morning is a smaller repeat of the rush of Friday. At this point, most volunteers and teams know where to go and the general run of the show. As EC and VC, be sure to keep making sure the food and drink is available on time for volunteers. Keep their experience positive and make sure teams are getting what they need from the event. The last item is to push through the teardown of the event. Through the generosity of first teams, often you will be able to count on 2 or maybe 3 teams to help stay and tear down the field. This can be done in the matter of an hour or 2. After that, a single team can work through the matters of packing up the field into the trailer and putting away all the pipe and drape, masonite, and tarps. In our experience, the event may end around 6:30 p.m. and we will be done tearing down by about 9:30 p.m. After the event, the EC needs to follow up with payments to all the vendors and help with any lost and found items at the event. But overall, that's it. You did it! Way to go. Whether you are choosing to host FLL Explore, Challenge, FTC, or FRC, hosting an event is both an incredible amount of work as well as the fundamental backbone of this organization. Thank you for all that you are doing to host, and thank you to all the volunteers who came to make our events possible. After watching this, our longest video, I hope you get out there and start a new regional or district event. The benefits will be incredible for you, your program, your teams in the area, and just for your area in general. Know that this work is difficult for even seasoned hosts like myself. But we keep doing it because we know how valuable the work is. So thanks for watching and being with us here today. Remember to leave a comment with your team name and number so we know what robots to cheer for this season. And if you have any hosting tips or great event experiences, leave those in the comments as well. We would love to hear from you about what cool things happen where you choose to compete. And as always, subscribe to this channel to keep finding out more on This Is How We Robot.